If you're a bivocational pastor, then this special flash episode is just for you. I'm Pete Mitchell, and in between our regular Church Planter podcast episodes, I'll be bringing you insight and ideas to help our bivo pastors have an easier and more profitable go at it. If you'd like more info on the training program specifically for bivocational pastors, you can check it out at missionbybusiness.com. This might be a little bit different video or podcast than what you're used to hearing or seeing from me. It's because I just had an experience and I got to share it with you. I don't know where this is going to go. I'm just going to tell you about this experience and some of my initial thoughts and just kind of let you, run from there. Take the ideas that I've got and go from there. So I literally just left the movie theater, just got back home, and I just saw a movie that really rocked me. And it rocked me in a lot of ways. The movie was called The Last Full Measure. Definitely highly recommended. It's a great movie. So if you don't know what it's about, and I can honestly say, I totally thought it was about something completely different before I went. It's about a guy who, it's based on a true story. He was a Vietnam airman, and his friends wanted him to get the Medal of Honor, posthumously the Medal of Honor. He died in Vietnam, died at this battle, and it's their story. So it's their story of, for 32 years trying to get him this medal. And what happened? So the main character, his job is to do all the research, interview all the people who were there, the guys on the ground and the airmen and, everything. But what was so amazing was what this airman decided to do. So it was a really bad battle. I mean, horrible battle. As if there's ever a good one. Well, this one was especially bad. And the unit was totally pinned down. They were surrounded by the VC, and they're getting shot left and right. Unfortunately, you find out in the movie that one of the main characters, he ordered a military strike, and he did his calculation wrong, and he's responsible for friendly fire. He was responsible for really the reason why the airman was there. And so he just was, totally torn up about that, obviously. I mean, he's responsible for his own guys getting killed. At least 3 immediately, and who knows how many afterwards, who were injured that the Viet Cong came and killed. And so the airman, he decides, hey, you know what? Their medic is injured. We're taking the medic. I need to go down there and help them. So he goes down to help, and it's just so bad, he can't leave. He's like, there's no way I can leave. And all these other guys are like, why is this guy coming down here? If any of us could leave, we'd totally leave. He's the one guy who can leave because that's his crew, and they're going to take him back, and he won't leave. And so it's really just this whole story, and the parents are the dad has got cancer. He doesn't have long to live. And so that's, part of the reason why they, his friends all want him to get the Medal of Honor because, before dad dies, they never changed his room since he went to Vietnam, nothing, right? But here's the reason why it rocked me so hard, man, as I'm watching this movie. Everybody who was there, everybody is jacked up 32 years later. They're jacked up because it's war. They're jacked up because of what they saw. They're jacked up because of what they did. They're jacked up because of the evil that they perpetrated and was perpetrated against them. War is bloody. It is nasty. It is not in any way good or fun. I mean, the guys who go to war, and some of you guys I know who listen to the podcast and watch these videos, I know you've been to war. We've been in the longest war our nation's ever had. And it's not ending. In fact, I just heard the other day, more people died in Afghanistan. U.S. soldiers died in a firefight. And these guys are just jacked up. In fact, one guy, he cannot sleep at night. And keep in mind, this is 32 years later. He can't sleep at night. So he only sleeps during the day because of just the memories, everything that happened in Vietnam. And there's a scene in it, man. There is a scene that is so powerful. It will remind you of Good Will Hunting. So if you remember Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams and Matt Damon, they're in Robin Williams' office. You remember that scene where Robin Williams is like, "It's not your fault." Matt Damon is like, "I know." Robin Williams goes, "It's not your fault." "I know. It's not your fault." "I know. It's not your fault." "Not you too, Sean. Not you too." Right. And then Matt Damon just totally just breaks down and is just crumbling, right? Because he's always just put up this front and someone's finally just like digging in. There's a scene like that where two of the main characters are in front of the Vietnam War Memorial, and it's that same scene. And the shame that this guy had for 32 years just comes bubbling to the surface. And I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking, now, of course it's a Hollywood movie, so there's no mention of God in it. There's no mention of anything like that. And I'm thinking as I'm watching this, man, the only thing that can bring about the healing that all these guys are looking for is Jesus. That's the only thing that will bring these guys the healing that they're looking for. I mean, they're trying everything else. One guy is doing a lot of great stuff, but at least in the movie, they make him out to be more of a Buddhist than anything else. And I'm just sitting there looking at that going, man, if they just knew about Jesus. That was the part that really got to me. Now, I know some of our guys who listen to the podcast and watch these videos, I know that they do a lot in the military community. In fact, I can think of one guy right now specifically who's got a church plant specifically for the military community. He's doing it out of Virginia, if I remember correctly. I know we've got other guys who are ex-military, and so they got a special place in their hearts for the guys in the military. In fact, when I was in college, one of my housemates had been a Navy SEAL and then went to Biola University, which is the college that I went to. He went to that using his, the GI scholarship or whatever that's called. And I remember him telling us, now, when he was active duty before college, we weren't at war. So he used to like say with a twinkle in his eye, "Hey, we weren't at war when I was a Navy SEAL. So everything I did was a training mission." And we were always like, why does when you say that, we think they did stuff, but they just can't admit that they did it, right? Because of the way he said it. But he used to love to walk point. And he goes, I actually am glad that I'm enlisted because I get to walk point. I mean, no one wants to walk point, right? I mean, that's the first guy to get shot. And he goes, I love these guys. And usually the guy who walks point is the first guy to get shot. And if I get shot, then that'll at least clue them in, hey, the enemy's right here. Maybe they'll get a chance to live a little bit longer and come to know Jesus. Like, that was his reason for wanting to walk point. That's how much he loved those guys. So all of this just brings me back to when Dave Negri and I, we did a podcast a couple weeks back, and he said one of the most profound things. He goes, one of the worst things that we do is we believe a lie. And then that lie becomes our truth. But it's still a lie. And I think about that in terms of our Bivo pastors and the lie that I think is so prevalent in our church, in our nation, in our Western civilization. The lie is you do less when you're a part-time minister than the full-time minister. And we start to believe that. And we're like longing for that day when we're in full-time ministry. We're longing for the day when, hey, I got the brass ring, man. I was finally good enough to be the senior pastor and get a full-time check from the church. Now, I'm not saying that that's not a valuable thing, that God doesn't use full-time ministers. Of course he does. Don't be ridiculous. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a lie to think that you're somehow less than because you're in quote unquote part-time ministry. Dude, you are on the front lines. You are in the trenches. You work with people who don't know Jesus. You employ people who don't know Jesus. Your boss might be someone who doesn't know Jesus. Your customers and clients and patients or who you're getting in touch with every day don't know Jesus. You're more front lines than the full-time guy who spends 4 hours a week in front of other Christians. Not saying that that's not a valuable thing, right? I always got to say that because I get so much hate mail. But what I am saying is you are front lines. Don't believe the lie that you're less than. You're not less than. There are so many people who are hurting out there. I shared this several weeks ago. I'm part of this mastermind group, really high-end mastermind group. Everyone in there is like a 7-figure earner. They're just really, really successful. And they are jacked up. It's like the best kept secret except in the group, right? Because in the group, everyone just admits how jacked up they are. And they're like, oh, finally a place where I can go and talk to people about how jacked up I am. And they're doing ayahuasca and, MDMA and, LSD and everything else to get rid of this trauma in their life. Trauma is the hip word that they all use. Because they got all this shame. They got all this hurt. They got all this pain in their lives. And I'm hearing all this and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you need Jesus. And you don't know that yet. And in that case, I'm thinking, I may be the only person who you ever meet who can tell you about Jesus. Because I'm seen as one of their peers. That's what you get to do as a Bivo pastor. I've shared it before in these videos. Paul Percy, he talked about on one of the Facebook posts about how, he works at a supermarket. And, one of his coworkers used to make fun of him. Oh, you're a Jesus lover. Oh, you're a pastor. Oh, you're this. Next thing you know, he starts to become friends with the guy. The guy starts asking him questions. The guy starts asking him, hey, will you pray for me? And next thing you know, Paul's being invited to his house to bless the house because they just got done with a remodel. He's the only non-family member that's invited. Why? It's because he's Bivo. It's because he's in the trenches every day. It's because he's frontline ministry. All right, we used to say at Refuge Long Beach that Refuge Long Beach was the last stop before eternity for a lot of people. I don't even know how many people died who went to Refuge when I was there. Right? We had, I don't know how many overdoses. Ruben's own brother gets shot by the cops, right? The cops warned him the week before, hey, if we see you back here again, we're going to shoot and kill you. The next week, they did it. I know we're not supposed to say anything bad about the cops, but they literally murdered Ruben's brother, right? Nothing ever happened to them because they're cops, right? You don't do anything bad to cops. We got to back the badge and all that crap. Dude, I'm telling you, man, you might be someone's last stop before eternity. That's all I want to leave you with in this video. I just don't want you to believe the lie that you're somehow less than or not as good as or anything like that when it comes to what you do as a bivocational minister. What you do is front lines. What you do is in the trenches. As Peyton and I would say on the podcast, you are going where no one else is going and you are doing what no one else is doing. And I thank you for what you do for the kingdom. I'll talk to you guys later.